let's continue to move along here right now. Roster news right now as we look at it. For the Steelers depth chart going into this season. And we saw a lot of things going on right now with the preseason. The Pittsburgh Steelers did end up having their sole loss to the Carolina Panthers in a blowout in that game. I mean, we saw a lot in that season right there. I mean, when you really think about it, I mean, the quarterback battle, I mean, to be behind Ben Roethlisberger, as it stands right now, Mason Rudolph is still the number 2 guy behind Ben Roethlisberger. But I got to tell you what, in this preseason, watching everything that I did, what I know now, I got to tell you, Dwayne Haskins really did give Mason Rudolph a run for his money. I mean, just for the simple fact, when you truly, I mean, look at it, I mean, yeah, Rudolph did have a better quarterback rating at the end of the day with 99.2, but when you dissect it a very further too, and everything that has been happening right now, I mean, here's the thing you got to keep in mind right now. I mean, Dwayne Haskins did have a lot more opportunities. I mean, Mason Rudolph had only 9 drives altogether, only 3 field goals and 9 drives for 33% scoring percentage versus Dwayne Haskins, who scored 8 times out of his 22 drives, a little over 36%, which also included going 4 for 4 in the red zone, while Rudolph was 0 for 3. Joshua Dobbs in the red zone was 1 for 3. He scored only 1 touchdown out of his 9 scoring drives and a field goal. Now, I mean, of course, I mean, versus the Carolina Panthers game, many would argue he has opportunities, big moment with the starters in that game. Really could have made some extra pressure on Rudolph. I'm not sure if it was necessary enough, but to be honest with you, Dwayne Haskins right now, if he sticks around beyond this season, I tell you what, I don't think either him or Rudolph or Dobbs, clearly none of these guys right now is the legit long-term answer behind, I mean, when Ben Roethlisberger starts to retire and take the throne. I'm not going to lie right now. I would not mind having Dwayne Haskins stick around if he's not a starter, but on the depth chart as a backup. I would not mind that. Because right now, I mean, when you got TJ Watt being re-signed, extended to a 4-year extension, you're basically sending a message right now that for a guy as special as TJ Watt is, that you're willing to build this team continuously with this great defense. They're building a great defense once again. You still got very few core pieces in here, too. When you also look at the Steelers right now, I mean, for the most part, when you look at everybody else, I mean, you got Cam Hayward, another guy. He signed his extension last year on Labor Day. I mean, he's got 4 more seasons left to go right now. And as he is coming into this right now. And to be honest here, it's really an interesting time right now. I mean, I'm just looking at everything, I mean, from the simple fact right now, too. I mean, the guy in Cam Hayward who had a $17.5 million sign bonus. I mean, at signing, and $2.75 million roster bonuses on September of last year, September 11th. But, I mean, this is real talk right now. I mean, it is still very well possible, like I've been saying, Ben Roethlisberger, maybe he'll stick around for another year. Now, I think the funny thing is, I'm not sure how many people have been rolling their eyes when they heard Ben Roethlisberger, I mean, who was nice enough to go to bat for TJ Watt, saying to pay this guy the money he deserves, mean, that's one of the reasons why I took lesser money to see a guy like him get paid. Remember, Ben Roethlisberger did take a $5 million pay cut for this year. And to be honest with you, I will say this. The only way this thing continues to work is if the defense is that strong and that good for a while. Because right now, Joe Hayden, too, he's another guy who is looking for a new deal. He's playing on the final year of his newly signed 3-year deal 2 years ago. 2-year extension, but as Ed Bouchette continues to remind everyone, they don't do extensions. It was a new 3-year deal. I mean, he's definitely going to be looking to test the market after this season. And I'm not sure if Joe Hayes will be a guy that's going to stick around. We'll see. The only thing is, I will say this, as far as with the cap space, remember, I mean, it's supposed to go up significantly in 2022. And for the Steelers, I mean, right now in 2022, they're supposed to be having about over $38.4 million in cap space, basically. And I think that's going to be very interesting right there. And don't forget, too, remember, with TJ Watt, and I think that's in large part because the extension that TJ Watt signed. So, I mean, that's part of it. I mean, it's already been invested. Remember, we already knew the money was not going to be affecting this year's cap. It was going to be affecting future years. So I will say this. Honestly, once Ben Roethlisberger does decide to retire, or if he does decide to stick around for another year, I'm not really sold on either guy just yet. I love the competition. I love the depth chart, but I'm not sure if I really like the idea of putting my hopes with these guys as the future stars of this team. I get very hesitant at that. And I just feel right now they need to try and find a way to trade up for someone in the draft or just see where they're going to be. I really get concerned right now. How they're gonna get that right when he does decide to come back. And the Pittsburgh Steelers right now, for the most part, going into the 2022 NFL draft for the moment, and we got an update on that yet, but man, you got to imagine it's going to probably be in a similar position where they were this year, at least in the high mid-20s, basically. Because this year they were 24th. You got to probably be thinking somewhere in the early 20s right there. But but I tell you what, man, Dwayne Haskins, I think, was definitely a huge gamble. I think he was definitely worth the risk. Again, sustainable-wise, long-term, I'm not sure if it's going to happen that way for him, if it's going to be that much in the cards. Dwayne Haskins has been brought here to get a second chance, get out of that environment with the Washington football team. And then not only that, too. I mean, here's another element to factor in right now, too, because this has also been floated around here. When Kevin Colbert, whenever he decides to walk away from the Steelers or yet alone retire from football altogether, another thing we have to think about, too, is if Kevin Colbert leaves, who's going to be that next GM? Now, let me ask you this. Does anyone see possibly Mike Tomlin being head coach and general manager of this team? Since Mike Thomas been definitely involved in the scouting so far, you gotta think. But I also like to think too, right now for the time being, that why not? I think that will make a lot of sense. I'm not sure if that role will necessarily work. Him doing double duties. But I'm not gonna lie to you. I think that does not sound like a bad idea. I think Tom right there, he's a guy who definitely understands players very well, knows how to connect with a lot of people who come to this team. I don't see how that doesn't work out. The only thing is, being head coach and GM, so you're going to be that guy, I don't know, working hand in hand with Omar Khan, Art Rooney, as far as like paying certain individuals, being more of an increased role under his head coaching position. We'll see. We'll dive into that in fair or foul towards the end. And also, let's look at the other rush moves that was made throughout the offseason, too. I mean, we also remember, I think one of the interesting ones right now, in my opinion, which I'm going to look forward to, is going to be the one at depth in their inside linebacking position right now. Or no, their edge and inside linebacker, excuse me, basically. You got Melvin Ingram right now, who is a backup outside linebacker to TJ Watt right now. And then Joe Schobert right now, too, on the right side of Devin Bush. Devin Bush coming off of knee recovery, knee surgery from being hurt last year against the Browns right there. And we've been hearing a couple of practices how Joe Schobert was wearing the green dot on his helmet. And just not so sure about Devin Bush. I mean, don't forget, he was not available versus the Buffalo Bills late in the season as the season continued to wind down the stretch. So we definitely got some concerns right there. But I will say this. I mean, if you were to ask me right now and put me in the corner, I think the Steelers got a very good chance of winning this first game in Buffalo. As long as they're fully healthy. I think now, too, Ben Roethlisberger's gotten that full season of legitimate rest without having to put any extra aggravated work on his throwing elbow to recover. You finally got yourself a good running back, and Najee Harris. We'll find out how he does in the pros right now once the games start counting. I mean, the biggest thing right now is the offensive line. I mean, there has been a little bit of like things Ben Roethlisberger was saying. I mean, you got Zach Banner right now starting on IR along with Stephon Tuitt, excuse me, who lost his brother this past offseason. Prayers, love going out to him. But, I mean, when you look at the IR right now, the injury reserve on this team, I mean, the key guys you got on here is Zach Banner and Stephon Tuitt. And to be honest with you, I think the IR is only for like the first 3 games. So, I mean, if he's becoming available, you're talking about around when the Steelers will be playing against the Bengals. Or after 3 games, I guess the Packers, excuse me. I think, if anything, Stephon Tuitt, that'd probably be like the only loss he'll probably have to be feeling a little bit going into this matchup against the Bills. When you look at the defensive line right now, I mean, you got Cam Hayward as defensive tackle, Chris Wormley as your defensive end, and then Tyson Alualu as your nose tackle. I got to tell you right now, of all the guys, I'm so glad that was able to stick around was Alualu. Remember, he was supposed to be going back to Jacksonville, but something happened where he came back. I think it was something with COVID. He was able to come back to the Steelers once again. And I'm going to tell you right now, I mean, Alualu right now, I think it's just definitely been a guy right here and you truly look at it, who's definitely, I think, been like one of my favorites in the last couple of years right there, who's come over here since 2017. And you look at this guy right there. I mean, he has career best, I think, last year too. I mean, as far as like his starts, he had 10 out of 15 starts, which was a career high. I mean, played in 15 games, second most with the Steelers. He had 38 total tackles, along with 5 quarterback hits and 4 tackles for loss. So, I mean, I think Alala right now definitely helps to be a solid anchor. And you look at the rest of this defensive line. I mean, their defensive front, how they continue to build this up. Some other key pieces too that we've seen being added right now. I mean, we also look at quarterback Akello Witherspoon. He started 33 games from his previous 4 seasons with the San Francisco 49ers. He signed a 1-year, $4 million contract with the Seattle Seahawks in the spring, with the hopes that he would be in the starting lineup for the Seahawks. Right now, the Seattle Seahawks, they did part ways with him and basically trade him. Seahawks right now, they're going to be on the hook for the next 2 years of his signing bonus right now, $1.25 million debt cap this season, the following season, for his $2.5 million sign bonus, which they will give him. It was basically a 1-year, $4 million deal right there. The $2.5 million plus the $1.5 million for his base salary, I believe, was right now, and that will pay them for a grand total of $4 million right now. His highlights with the 49ers include 33 out of 47 games, including 4 interceptions, along with 117 total tackles. And his thoughts on coming to the Steelers, he says, I'm like on rep 1,000 getting pushed down to the ground, having to get back up. Witherspoon said Monday afternoon following his practice with the Steelers. The first one was the toughest one. I'm deep into the process of overcoming obstacles, so I'm like, come on, let's get it. I'm here right now for a reason. This contract was fully guaranteed at the time of signing, and he was traded to the Steelers right now. And right now, I mean, the biggest reason for that was to give depth behind Cam Sutton and Joel Hayden. I mean, look at those two cores right here. I mean, there's been a lot of talk about Cam Sutton being in nickel sub packages once again. James Pierre, he is set to become the number 3 corner with Sutton moving inside and sub packages. Witherspoon immediately became the second most experienced corner on their team when he arrived. And like Sutton, Witherspoon was a 3rd-round pick in the 2017 draft. He was the second selection of the 3rd round and number 66 pick. And not only that, too, I mean, you also got Carl Joseph right now, which, by the way, is on the practice squad of the Steelers right now. I mean, this is a guy right here. I mean, when you look at it, I mean, a guy who came out of West Virginia. I mean, he's 27 years old. I mean, Carl Joseph, he was selected by the Raiders in 2016. And you look at this guy's telltale, the tape right here, his journey. Former West Virginia star was 1st-round pick in 2016. But the 2020 season with the Browns after signing a 1-year deal with the Browns and was re-signed by the Raiders the following year. Joseph was among players released by the Vegas Raiders a couple of weeks ago, a week or 2 ago. So, and he also got wide receiver Steven Sims, formerly with the Washington football team. He appeared in 32 games the previous 2 seasons, making 4 starts. He had a 68 career receptions for 575 yards and 5 touchdowns. Sims had 4 catches for 17 yards out of the slot for Washington against the Steelers last season. So I got to tell you right now, out of those signings right there, who do you like the most? I gotta tell you, the one that intrigues me the most is gonna probably be Joe Schobert. I like the fact that you got like a nice insurance policy, someone to play opposite side. I mean, TJ, I mean, not TJ Watt, Devin Bush. I mean, Kevin Colbert, I think for the most part, remember, this team started nearly $35 million in the hole. I mean, once this offseason began, that was projected to do everything with the loss of revenue and live game attendance because of COVID-19. Not only did they get cap reply, reworked a lot of contracts, adding voidable years to those contracts to free up cap space, and to add all these people onto this team, I give them a B- so far. I'm not going to give it an A, but man, I mean, this is probably like the best we've seen Colbert do in a while as far as like hustling, signing guys, cheap deals, whatever, doing some nice patchwork to really build a good team for this season. If anything, they're definitely going all in. And I can only imagine will be next season. I mean, you also got other guys here, two on here. I mean, going into it. And to be honest with you, too, I really like this way this team is going to be up. I think that if anything on the coaching side right now, I think I'm definitely be looking at a guy like Adrian Clem right now. Adrian Clem, who's been trying to replace Munchak right now. This offensive line needs to play with an attitude. I'm also going to be looking at a Faulkner, running back coach, had 3 years experience. I think those two guys right here really need to bring the best out of their players right this year. I'm surprised Benny Snell is still on the depth chart and not on the practice squad. I mean, right now, when you look at the offensive side of the football, I mean, for this season, I mean, you still got Benny Snell. He was the number 2 backup to Najee Harris, followed by Kalen Ballage. Honestly, to tell you the truth, I probably would put Kalen Ballage over a guy, Benny Snell. Benny Snell, the one good thing about Benny Snell, when he does start to heat up, he does get a nice zone as far as like running the ball. He can grind out some yards. And I definitely feel like too, I mean, and Ballage too, I mean, he's been having some nice athleticism, some shades of like Le'Veon Bell before. I mean, some of his technique. But to be honest, I'm really surprised Snell has made it on this team as the number 2 guy behind Harris.
Well, listen here. We've got to get one thing understood here tonight. This is Steeler country. Here we go, Steelers. Here we go.